Athletes and fans around the world, welcome to another Primetime Muscle. I'm Tim Wilkins, joined by these two top-notch individuals. Good morning, my friends. Tarek El-Gindi.
Top-notch individual. I like that introduction. Thank you so much. You clearly didn't look at my record.
Well, I definitely haven't looked at Chris's. Good morning, Chris Cormier, the real deal.
How you doing, my
What's
brother?
up, buddy?
How you doing, my man? How are you? Fitted as usual. You know how I do it.
Louis from head to toe.
You know how I do it. I do it to him every once in a while. Every once in a while, I do it to him.
Well, and still waiting for that Louis sponsor, I see.
All right.
Huh?
I'll get that for you.
Yes, well, not for me, for you.
Oh.
I just need Macy's or Burlington Coat Factory to step up for me. Hey, guys, it's the season's about to kick off. We're seeing a lot of people getting ready to dial in for the Arnold. They're a few weeks out, and it's going to be redemption for some. It's going to be maybe holding a title for others. And there are other guys. Hunter Labrada, one of our favorites, one of my favorites. Labrada family. The legacy continues. He's looking good.
You know, Tim, I love Hunter because from the beginning of his career, he had pressure, right? You know how it is. You know, he's got the Labrada last name, but the Labrada last name never helped him on stage. He conquered everything he has based on his effort, based on what he had to fight. Obviously, he had his father's knowledge and pedigree, but there's a lot of guys that have, fathers that were incredible, Mr. Olympias, and they never pan out to be great bodybuilders. Hunter Labrada is a national champion, right? And he competed, he won Tampa, he won plenty of shows, but there was a little bit of pressure on him, right? They're like, after that fourth place at the Olympia, he never panned out to be, as good as we thought. He's always holding water and he's not posing well. And in this Mr. Olympia, I think he put an end to it. He said, guys, I'm as good as I am when I placed fourth. And I think he is on his way up. At pre-judging, Tim, Chris, a lot of people had him fourth. Okay, he looked incredible on Friday. A lot of people had him and Martin battling it out. And then he fell to sixth. Some people had him in fifth, over Andrew Jack. But this is the redemption of Hunter Labrada.
Chris, here's something I want to establish, and I want to say this to the viewers, because everybody's an expert, and as they say on the internet, the trolls and haters, you say, oh, he was only fourth. That dispelled the myth, and he's just not cool anymore. Bro, he was fourth at the Olympia. Fourth and fifth and sixth and seventh. That's a pretty elite group of people for history. As someone who's been in that top three position, that's elite.
That is elite, Tim. And I mean, that's just goes to show you how, people that probably never make it up to that point, they're gonna, put this out there on you. But I'm telling you right now, the top six in the world is a very proudful group of guys. And you will forever be in that upper echelon of competitors. And he's been working with, Child's been his coach that I brought him up to this point as far as the best that we've seen of Labrada. But he's had some other coaching, previously, and, they didn't get the most out of him. Now, granted, this is a guy who didn't have to bodybuild. Was not born on the, some would say he was born with a silver spoon, right? Didn't have to hurt for money, didn't have none of that. So he had I went to the facility, you've been there, right?
Many times.
Yeah, we've been to the facility. We know you have 6 microwaves side by side in the food room, and we know you have 5 blenders side by side. You are equipped, you have everything, you got a whole slew of nutrition right outside the door of your the training facility.
Hand-picked pieces of equipment that he and his dad just went through and made a make-a-wish of the Win the Day gym is a make-a-wish for a pro bodybuilder to have every piece they want.
So. And I remember sometimes you see how tough of a man somebody is after they get knocked out. And, it was 2 years ago. He didn't do well at the Olympia. He was holding water. and the whole bodybuilding community, a lot of the YouTubers came after him for holding a lot of water. And he sat down with everybody. He did tons of interviews. He said, yeah, guys, yeah, it happened. You know, it was me right there. I messed up. We made a mistake. We're going to come back better and this and that. So I give him tremendous credit for facing, you know, the issue at hand. And I also give him tremendous credit for coming back and storming the stage. There's a girth on Hunter's Labrada. I was at the LA Fit Expo, and Hunter was there. He was by far the biggest dude there. I mean, he looked incredibly huge. And Brett Wilkin was there. Martin Fitzwater was there. But Hunter just looked massive. And I think Hunter is coming up big. I think he's going to make a splash. I think he's going to win a show. And I think he's going to be right there fighting for that top 5 at the 2025 Mr. Olympia.
We got a great video here to walk through of his posing routine from last year's Olympia. I always try to put a positive spin on everything. And I said after the Olympia a couple of years ago when he was holding water, and as he posed, it just poured out of him. I thought it would be so great to get him a new sponsor like Brawny Paper Towels, because they sopped that water off of him all night. But he came back harder the next day and harder the next year and even better this year. And the update pictures, he looks probably 8 to 10 pounds bigger this year than last year and better.
And Hunter is known to, you know, he's not very photogenic on stage, right? You see pictures of him on stage and he doesn't look as impressive as when he's actually on stage and you're judging him. When he came in to pre-judging at the Olympia, everybody at that judging panel was wowed. This is Hunter. He's back. He looked massive. He was cut. Now, he was a lot better at prejudging than finals, and he knows that. I talked to him about it. If he was able to duplicate the effort from prejudging to finals, Tim, he could have beaten Martin Fitzwater, who was the star of the show. So this is how good Hunter was on Friday.
I mean, you're a judge, so like, how does that happen? Like, I saw the prejudging. I was very impressed with Hunter, but how does he get edged out at the night show?
Chris, you know, you probably know the answer better than we do, right? We sit there and we judge the show. Our expertise is to look at people very fast and notice the difference. And we noticed a very significant difference between Hunter Labrada on Friday than on Saturday. On Friday, I had him fighting for 4th, right there with Martin and Andrew Jack. And I actually thought his girth on top could have taken Martin. And then he lost a little bit of the crispness on Saturday. I talked to Hunter, and sometimes it's that final, you know, modification, which I'm not a trainer, I'm not a coach, I don't know what happens. You probably can tell me something that happened on that final day.
Well, I just think, I mean, a lot of people put a lot into the prejudging because they think it's a higher percentage of where you're going to get in your placing is the prejudging. So then when you come to the night show, you probably try to fill up a little bit more with the carbohydrates, trying to, you know, get a better look than you had at the prejudging. Everyone's trying to come in better at the night show. But sometimes you do a little bit too much. Sometimes you take in too many carbs. And at that point in time, you know, you spill over into a different look. And then sometimes judging takes place and they do a whole nother judging segment of the competition.
This is what's got to be difficult because as people who have competed, we all know water. Dialing your water in for one magic moment on Saturday is one thing. Dialing your water in for Friday and Saturday is just brutal. To think, you know what, I got to refill a little in the morning. I'd have enough water to uptake these carbs for the next 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours. And then I can't be too watery with those carbs again on Saturday night.
Yes, I mean, I like to have the prejudging and the night show on the same day. It's easier to peak. But some people, it helps them a lot, and some people, it hurts them a little.
Well, let's look at this, Tarek. One of the things that's impressed me about Hunter in the last few years, when you're a big guy, to put on size, he already had a bit of a waist issue. He's been dialing down the waist and getting bigger at the same time. Normally when the guys just pack on muscle, they just turn into a block.
And, you know, he's that hybrid, right? Because he has the mass. He's a big dude. He's like Nick Walker, big in some areas. But in a lot of poses, you still see a small waist. You know, obviously he needs to control the abdominal section. That's for every bodybuilder. There's one factor here that I'd like to mention. You know, sometimes when you're under a lot of pressure, you know, the adrenaline, right, it just kicks in. And then that prevents your body from maximizing, right? You're just so stressed and the blood's not flowing as much. And I think Hunter this time was a lot more relaxed on Friday, and then on Saturday maybe he thought, oh, come on guys, now I'm fighting for it, and then he got nervous again. But this was a great physique. He still could have been just a little bit tighter, but this was the redemption of Hunter Labrada. You can see right here on the obliques, he has the separation. He's containing the abdominal section. Look at the legs, are massive, right?
But Chris, we still need a bit more detail.
Yes, a bit more detail, Tim. And I'm telling you, I never hardly see a lot of these guys doing abdominal work, you know, throughout the year. I think I need to see this guy improve his abs greatly. I mean, if you improve the abs, Hunter, that's going to improve your placing, because that's not it's not becoming a strong suit. You got all the bells and whistles improving. You got to get the midsection controlled and improved in order to make a run for a higher placing.
Look at that back girth. I mean,
that's what I would do.
You know, and people talk about, well, he's a Labrada. His physique is completely different than his father, right? That's two different types of physique.
He's got the triceps, though.
You know what I mean?
Well,
better legs.
We're excited. See, now, Chris, there's front and back on his double bi from the front and the back. He needs to do some with those elbows to get that final little open up. He did it on the back. I just saw him do it again from the front. So there's some posing tweaks. This improved physique needs to improve the posing still just a bit.
Yeah, but the posing is awesome, because you know he has a major injury that will take a lot of people out of competition. He's got the pec tear, but he manages to hide it so well on stage. I'm really impressed with that, because it never comes into to play to where it's damaging his performance.
Well, Derek, he qualified for the Olympia last year, I believe, in Milan. 2-3 years ago was Tampa, which is a massive show, Tim Gardner's show, beginning of August. So now he's got to, once again, having finished sixth and not in that top three, he's got to find that magic show, get back on the map, back on the path to the Olympia. Any thoughts on where that might be?
I think Hunter is going to get his qualification later in the year, and I think Hunter will be fighting for top 5 at the Mr. Olympia. I think now he knows the path for success.
Chris?
I think he just needs to come in. He needs to keep that same conditioning, and I feel like he can. I mean, I'm with Tarek on this one.
I think that top 5 and 6 from 3 to 6 is going to be a dogfight like nobody's ever seen before, and I want to see Hunter in the mix for that group right there. So
improve the abs, Hunter, and it will help you in your placing.
Well, we've got that other guy that we was duking it out with, and I just saw an update picture from him. I don't know if anybody else has seen him recently, but the guy that blew our minds about 4 years ago at the Olympia press conference, we're going to talk about him when we come back. Okay, guys, a few years ago, one of my favorite things, I'm just such a nerd, 35 years of being a bodybuilding nerd, I love the press conference. And one of the things I love is the new guy, the Michael Krizo, who comes out and blows everybody's mind, who has no problem taking off his shirt. A few years ago, that guy for me was Andrew Jacked. Chinadu Obieka. My wife, we're sitting next to a couple guys, and she grabbed everybody's arms on either side and said, "Who is that?" He was massive. Tall, symmetrical, dialed in, just a beast.
Yes, he was impressive to us all. I mean, and that's his strength, is to overwhelm the competition. And I said, many times before, this guy has muscle that's not really on the anatomy chart, right? So you see different muscle groups. I don't know how many muscle groups he have in his chest alone, and he has like the 10-pack going on with the abs, and the chest, like this chest and abs. I think, who can really like when he's dialed in? That is remarkable. It's outstanding. It's incredible, Andrew.
So, man, Tim, he's a statue, right? You look at him and he looks perfect. You can't find one genetic flaw on Andrew Jack. You might even say, as crazy as it sounds, because he's so broad on top and he has the back space to be like Joe Stubbs, B-roll Joe Stubbs, you're going to see an amazing back. We already talked about him having that potential. He might be the most genetically gifted bodybuilder we have right now. And this is hard to say because the guy, the Mr. Olympia right now, is a freak himself. Andrew Jack is a statue. Is he fulfilling his potential? Not yet, okay? Not yet. If you talk about the most genetically gifted guy we have right now, placing 5th at the Olympia, some people might call it a little bit of a disappointment, right? I don't think he expected losing to Martin Fitzwater, which was the guy that he beat in Texas a few years back, right? And then Martin said something negative about him, and he just brushed it off like, you'll never beat me, something to that effect. He goes to Texas, and he looks amazing, right? We go like, if this guy shows up at the Olympia like he did in Texas, he could win the Olympia. And granted, when he came to the scene, people were talking about him being the next Ronnie Coleman. But right now, he's 5th in the world. And he's going to be heading against Samson Dauda, Derek, Martin, and all those guys
Hadi
again. Hadi Chupin. In my opinion, Andrew needs to respond. And the response has to be beating some of those guys. If Andrew gets a 5th place again or a 6th place again, then we might say it was an unfulfilled promise, right? And again, we love the guy. We want the guy to be on top. But if he's losing to Derek, Hadi, Martin, Samson, if Hunter surpasses him, Nick Walker comes back and he gets into that 6th or 7th, we might say, hey, with that great genetics, he didn't turn out to be what we thought. But I'm a believer, because we saw in Texas, that he can be top 3 at the Olympia.
Well, you just mentioned a lot of names that he hasn't beaten yet. So he's going to have to do something grand in order to do something he's never accomplished before. So that's going to take that Texas look with a little bit of improvement like we were expecting from Texas to Olympia last year. So, he knows what it takes. He knows what he needs to bring. If you're getting ready for the competition, all those little etched-in cuts are not showing up yet, you got to still keep working towards that look.
So you are quite often, Tarek, quote other sports statistics and liken it to bodybuilding. This is an interesting one. We had the Super Bowl a few weeks ago, and the offensive line for Super Bowl I averaged 245 pounds. The offensive line for Super Bowl 59 averaged 340. You look at these, when he stepped on stage a couple years ago and they went, this isn't real. And I think Chick put a scale down and he was like 301.
The evolution of man.
The evolution of man. So, but now you look and you're going to have Samson up there near that. You're going to have Nick close to that. You're going to have Hunter Labrada who's zooming in on that weight. It's a beef fest up there. There's a lot of big dudes.
And, it's an interesting point you bring in, Tim, because nobody's going to the NFL and going, oh, the sport has changed. It's no longer the same, right? We need to bring back the classic and have, you know, a 230-pound offensive line.
Let's bring back the golden era.
That is the golden era of the NFL. We need to have smaller guys run the ball 50 times and only throw 2 times. Those are the good times. You're not saying that, right? You're not saying that.
Well, let's look at Andrew Jack and his posing, because not only does he always bring a massive, beautiful, shapely physique, but Chris, best poser. I mean, the splits are one thing, but he puts together a routine.
Oh, I love his posing routine. Very unique. You know, complimentary of, you know, having, you know, his structure. You got longer arms, you got longer legs. So you're gonna have to do a little bit of unorthodox posing sometime in order to make everything look right. The knock on him has been on the side shots. You know, showing depth in the physique on the side shots. But I mean, that's all you can ever do is look at those little faults. But his strong points is stronger than some of the most we ever saw. So I think that's what's going to help him, is to even out the weaknesses, you know, still use those strengths and use that to the best of his ability up there. But he does have some very unique ways to pose. Some say he's a little too relaxed up there, but
I think he's in command.
Must. Yeah,
I think he's in command.
He's know what he's doing. He knows what he's feeling for. And I do love his routines. You know, you don't have. I thought he was just touching himself a little bit too more for my liking.
I'm sorry, say that again.
He was touching his legs. Okay. He kept grabbing on his legs.
Can you just be a little specific?
He was touching himself too much. And then dropped it like it's hot.
Oh. Man, this is incredible, right? I mean, look at that. This is incredible. Incredible physique. So what happened here, guys, is apparently his music didn't come. Something happened. You know, a lot of times you talk to the DJ and he goes, listen, they gave me the wrong CD and I played the song. And then the competitor goes, but my advice here for Andrew Jack is, if your music doesn't come, just keep posing. Now, you can stop right here. Let's go back to that front double biceps. There you go, Carter. And on the front double biceps, we notice something that's really incredible, which is he is a statue, right?
Boom.
Boom. If you look at this physique right here from the front, maybe a little bit more lats because he's so broad. This is perfection. I mean, this is perfection. We are looking at the evolution of bodybuilding. Like you said, Tim, about 50 years ago, we had great bodybuilders. 30 years ago, you look at a picture of Dexter Jackson, right? He is a Dexter Jackson, 300-pound Dexter Jackson.
Well, you know what I always used to say? Because it's basically 10 pounds per inch of body weight to be equal to someone else. And you look at Dex and you say, okay, for a guy his height to be Dex's size, he'd have to be as shredded, as symmetrical, and as pretty at about 280, 290. That's the guy right there.
He is incredible. I love his physique. What does he have to do? He has to come in more conditioned. I think he could use a little bit more hamstrings on the sides, but I'm going to disagree with you, Timothy Wilkins. I'm going to go here with Chris Cormier. He calls himself the Mona Lisa of bodybuilding, and man, he's right about that. When you're doing your presentation, by all means, be all artistic, right? Chris was artistic, Sean Ray, even Ronnie Coleman was artistic in his presentation. But when you're in the comparisons with Martin Fitzwater, who just called you out in Texas, right? 2 years ago, you're right next to Hunter, who thought he should have been 5th instead of you. Then you got the guys that you never beat, Hadi, Samson, and Derek. You have to pose aggressively. You have to send a message to those guys. Hey, I'm the big dog right here. There's no more Mona Lisa. Here comes the freaking predator, and I'm about to annihilate your family tree.
If he can improve his back double bicep and lat spread, that's also something I see that's going to make him, that's going to bring him over the top and get him some higher placings.
Well, a lot of these guys I'm seeing on the back double bicep, they're not opening it up, bringing that around and getting that last little bit of span. But then we're also missing when they're missing that last little nuance in conditioning, that low lat,
density,
that density.
density.
Yeah,
That's what you
things
want.
are just disappearing, which is not cool. Hey, if he dials in what we've been dreaming about him dialing in, we're not exaggerating. It's going to be a battle. They're going to have 1 or 2 in mind for top 2, and then top 3. I pity you guys. Top 3 to top 7 is going to be brutal.
You know, Tim, it takes years and years and years for you to become an Olympia judge and to make those decisions so fast, right? They hit a back-to-bow biceps, and you have 4 or 5 seconds to look at each one of them and then make a very strong decision without hesitation of who's the best one, who's the second best, who's the third, fourth, and fifth. And the head judge, Steve, is already calling back lat spread. So it's always a challenge, but let me tell you, if you don't want to leave in the judge's hands, you have an option. You can show up as Ronnie Coleman, 2003. You can show up as Jay Cutler, 2009. You can show up as Phil Heath, 2013. You show up like that, there's no judging. You already judged the show yourself. You already dominated the lineup.
Well, we'll see who dominates the lineup here coming up, and we'll see where these guys end up qualifying, because that's going to be the interesting thing, who they beat to get to the Olympia this year. Last year there was some interesting stuff with Martin and he was duking it out with Nick, and then Nick went to New York and Pittsburgh, and they all just
It was a brawl.
Yeah.
Martin still believes he beat Nick at the New York Pro.
Well, we've been 2 Olympias without Nick, so that's going to be a big stick in the spokes when he gets back there and starts to see where people really end up. Guys, we've had some controversial episodes, and we may be having the end of this one right now. We come back, we're going to be talking about the new fit model category on Primetime Muscle. All right, we're back, and we're talking about something that has been some controversy the last few weeks. They announced this year the fit model category. There was a wide range of excitement and online
Jeers and cheers.
Jeers and cheers. Thank you, Chris. It was jeers and cheers. And you both were at the Fit Expo at the beginning of February and walked through this and saw the very first winner and what they were looking for. What do you think now that you've seen what they're looking for?
So the winner, first of all, we were talking to a lot of people, and a lot of people came out to us, Tim, and said, I'm here to watch the new fit model, right? I'm here to watch the new fit model.
Right.
So people went there, they paid the tickets to watch the new fit model, right? I'm sure the haters will find something negative about this. People excited about a new category. And Angie Miranda won the overall. I know Angie because I judged her in California for many years. She had won a few overalls, and she goes on stage, and she looks incredible. She's a mom. She has 4 children, and she just gave birth. She has a 1-year-old.
Wow.
She just gave birth a year before. Some people are talking about, it's dumbing down bodybuilding. Well, find me many people that can give birth 12 months before going on stage, right? Not a lot of people can do that. So she looked incredible. The excitement was there. The category had a lot of competitors, and a lot of people were there to watch. Some of the people criticize, and they're saying, well, you guys are just adding this category. It's just a money thing. It's just a business thing. And, that strikes me a bit strange, right? Whenever somebody says, it's just business, it's just a money thing. In America, we like the capitalist system, where if there's a demand and people want to do something, some company provides that demand, right? We all love the iPhone, right? Right? I guess Steve Jobs, man. You're only about the business, Steve Jobs, man. Come on, man. What's wrong wrong with you, Steve Jobs? Man, you're a bad person, Steve Jobs, for creating the iPhone that everybody wants to use, right? And God forbid, the millions and millions of jobs that Steve Jobs has created, the millions and millions of people that are happy because there's now something that we enjoy doing.
Well, Chris, here I'm going to try and stick with Tarek's analogy.
How can I follow that?
I'm going to try and get you there.
Oh, my
So they have increased the iPhone over the last 20 years from just a talking device to a full movie production device that can beam satellite images and do all kinds of stuff. It's a full computer. But this is now the open category. iPhone 15 with the triple camera is the open category, right? And you have iPhones all the way down to the original. And now you're taking the iPhone Bikini Edition and saying, I want a version that just talks and can't text. That there's not as much workout, diet, muscularity, and bling.
Yeah,
Bigger
take the
coverage
bling
of
away.
the trunks, bigger coverage of the bikini, and less muscularity, less density, less striation, less everything. It's interesting. I see both sides of the cheers and jeers.
Yes, Tim, and I for one, I appreciate, taking off the bling off the outfits. You don't have to have a $15,000 outfit, and then I like the $15,000 outfit myself, but I'm talking about on the stage. So that, and just like you say, just going. It's almost like a throwback, almost like what they did with the classic division. Trying to do like a
So it's
throwback,
classic bikini.
classic bikini, basically. And they have an idea of what they're looking for. I think a lot of girls enjoy it because not everybody want to go down to a degree of dieting that some of the bikini girls do, some of the physique girls do for their competitions, and I think it's going to be a massive group of women that would fit this category, and I think that's exactly what Tarek is saying. Is just that's what supply and demand.
Well, let's stick with Tarek's analogy, and I think this is one thing that the world of open bodybuilding and some of the other categories just don't quite appreciate. That is a small portion of society, and to keep that afloat, we need shows to have more categories that are attainable, or at least people think are attainable, to get on stage, transform your body, stay healthy, stay fit, but feed into the system that props up the categories like 212 that may not have the notoriety or the money. Open does but doesn't. And really, the pro divisions are difficult to fill seats for promoters. The NPC side of a lot of things keeps those shows up and running.
Well, I think, I don't think bodybuilding is at a crucial moment in its history because I think the Olympia, the IFBB Pro League, and the NPC are way ahead in terms of analyzing the past and looking at the future, right? Let's look at the bottom line, sports, right? We love sports. So we just had the Super Bowl and we looked at two teams playing at the highest level, right? Just 30 years ago, it wasn't 32 teams, right? It wasn't that many teams. It was a lot less teams, right? And every time they expanded, maybe some people said, well, you're dumbing down. Why do we have a team in Washington State, right? Now it's not going to be as good as Unitas, in the 60s. The NBA, the same thing. The NBA expanded to Toronto, right? The NBA changed rules. They said, hey, let's create a three-point line. Let's make this more exciting.
Whenever I wanted to, I hate to interrupt you, Tarek, but I do. I actually love it. Whenever he brings up someone like Johnny Unitas, it makes me just want to throw an American flag around him.
Oh, man.
There's times when I think, well, Tarek is a great citizen that loves this country, but then you dig up some Americana like Johnny Unitas.
Yeah.
You up and sing Lee Greenwood.
I am, put the camera on me. I am a proud American, okay? I'm a proud American.
Oh,
I got here the red tie. I got my suit is blue. I'm a capitalist. I love the fact that I live in a free country with free enterprise where if people want to do a category called Fit Model, they can go there and they can invest their dreams, they can invest their lives into it, and that generates jobs, and more people can go into bodybuilding. Now, there are people who want to keep bodybuilding just 7 dudes on the first call out of a show, all those 7 dudes are 350 pounds and they're huge, massive bodybuilders, and no one else can use the stage, right? They want to keep bodybuilding in a very limiting portion of what it is. And if you talk to people that have stellar careers, such as Jay Cutler, such as Ronnie Coleman, such as Arnold Schwarzenegger, who are the top of the food chain, they have no problem embracing the new categories, right? Arnold has no problem getting the mic and interviewing the bikini competitor. Ronnie Coleman has no problem going on stage and putting a medal on a figure competitor. Jay Cutler promotes shows everywhere in the world saying, hey, congratulations, you're a competitor. And now you want to keep just 5 300-pound guys? It's not going to happen.
What's going on,
I got to
Timmy?
throw the flag, man. I got to throw the flag. You were going so good there. But when you talk about from a straight business standpoint, who's the first one to stand up and go, yeah, 212, women's physique, I don't like it, it's not the drawing, it's taking too much time. Maybe figure, maybe bikini, but not classic physique. I mean, Arnold is the one guy that show that said, I only want a couple of the main categories on stage for business purposes.
Well, and I'm going to tell you this. I think the Arnold Classic would benefit tremendously if they had all the categories. But one thing is for sure, Arnold has tremendous passion in some of the female categories, right? Because he has the fitness category, he has the bikini there, he has the classic
wellness
physique, he has the men's physique, he has the wellness. So we're talking about Arnold Schwarzenegger, the greatest icon of our sport, embracing some of those categories, right? He's embracing. My point is, we need to make bodybuilding healthy. We need to make it enjoyable. We need to get as many children as passionate about the sport. We need to have my daughter looking at Sydney Gillen, looking at Natalia Coelho, looking at Andrea Shaw and Sarah Viegas and saying, I want to be like them. And if we don't have those categories, we're going to be losing a huge amount of people that would have an interest in exercise, in diet, in getting themselves better. Guys, pay attention. Bodybuilding, going to the gym, eating well, hitting a front double biceps in front of the mirror is the only sport you can do for the entire extension of your life. You can't do MMA for 90 years. You can't play football for 90 years. You can't do soccer for 90 years. But you can go to the gym, you can lift weights, eat well, and at 95 years old, you can look in the mirror and say, look at that front double biceps.
But that's why we have some of the hard conversations we do, like on Primetime Muscle, and it's for longevity, for keeping you guys as safe as possible, enjoying the sport, and you want to, when you leave the sport, be able to function fully and leave it the right way. Leave it the right way, teach the next generation the safest way to do everything.
Well, and to that point, I love the guys like Jay and Milos that are doing the challenges with each other right now in their 50s and 60s to dial in these beautiful physiques and tell you off the stage, health, wellness, and looking and feeling great is still a possibility, to your point, Derek. All right, guys. We would love to hear what you think about Hunter, Andrew Jack, and of course the new fit model category. Like, comment, share, subscribe. But speaking of wellness, Tarek?
Well, Tim, to endure some of these haters in the internet, I have right here from Global Formulas. Stimulate protein synthesis not only in your body and your brain to endure some of these negative criticisms that make no sense, made by a bunch of communists.
Stay anabolic with Endure.
Right here.
Stay anabolic.
If you want to repair your life and start becoming a more positive person, okay, if you start looking at other people and saying, you know what, I think they should be on stage, Tim Wilkins, right here, you can repair. Now, if there's no repair and you're like me, just an angry dog, you can take BioHeat and continue to fight the haters for as long as you can.
Global Formulas, we thank you for your sponsorship and encourage you to check out their very scientifically formulated substances that all work towards your betterment. There are certain formulations that Jacob Frank and his team have put together that help the uptake of these amazing formulations like you wouldn't believe. Chelation processes that really help the absorption.
Repair your recovery. That's what you want.
That's what you want. Guys, we got to rock out. Folks, if you're sharing your cardio with us like many do, I hope you had a great session. Thank you as all for joining us. Chris Cormier, the real deal.
Real deal in the house.
Tarek, thanks for bringing your passion. Tarek Elgindi, you're going to be judging a lot here very soon.
Yeah, I'm going everywhere in the world.
All right, folks, thanks again for joining us on Primetime Muscle. We'll see you next time.